We demystify what goes on behind the therapy room door. Join us on this voyage of discovery and co-creative conversations. This is the Therapy Show, Behind Closed Doors podcast, with Bob Cooke and Jacci Jones.
Welcome back to the next episode of the Therapy Show, Behind Closed Doors, with myself, Jacci Jones, and the wonderful Mr. Bob Cooke, as always.
Hello.
Hello. What we're going to be talking about this time is how to cope over the festive season. Christmas is descending fast upon us, Bob.
In the therapy world.
Yes.
Okay.
In the personal world, maybe I could do with some tips on how to cope over the festive season. It's not always a happy time for a lot of people.
Well, here we go. Such a big subject. I don't really know where to begin. But I will begin at the beginning and say a statement. For majority of clients, and perhaps for all of us, in therapy or out of therapy, how we experience Christmas is very much the story of how we experienced Christmas when we were a child. So we, past and present, come together.
Yeah.
And for a lot of clients I dealt with, they had quite negative experience of Christmas. And therefore, they often had negative Christmases throughout their lives because that's what they expected.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's what they familiarized with. And that's what they were okay with. And you get many different types of experiences of Christmas for children, of course. Christmases which become like forced Christmases and they have to enjoy it regardless. Christmases where the parents are in internal conflict because they've got 2 weeks together, and many couples haven't had 2 weeks together, for example. Or maybe healthy Christmases where it's been a joyful time for them. So whatever been going on in their history determines really how they experience the Christmases psychologically in the therapy room.
Yeah. I was thinking as you were saying that, and like all things therapeutic, we either replay it or do the opposite.
Or we think we're doing the opposite.
Yeah, well, yeah.
So I went to the gym with my daughter. She's 25 now, nearly 26. And she's married, so she lives away from home. We often sort of meet out, have tea and coffee, and often go to the gym.
I think you have a lovely relationship with you. I think that's lovely to do. I really do.
Yeah, thank you. And she was talking about Christmas, or we were both talking about Christmas. And she loves Christmas. And she said, oh, I can't wait to get my own house properly for our first Christmas. And she was talking about presents. And she had a good time at Christmas. She had good Christmases. And here's the rub that you are completely right about. I had a terrible time in my childhood at Christmas time. And when I had my own children, I vowed that Christmas time would be a good time if I could make it for my own children.
Yeah.
My wife, never really asked her this. She was in a family of 7. Never asked this question. Did she have good Christmases? I know she had very busy Christmases because there was lots of the family came round and everything else. I don't think it's probably anywhere near as traumatic as mine, but she and I have always found Christmas a bit more difficult, even though I try and make them good, but did for my daughter. I found Christmases, I'm better at them, quite difficult because they remind me of the difficult times of my own history.
Yeah.
So I had to purposefully
create a different outcome for your daughter. Yeah.
Was it a different outcome for me? I'm not so sure. Well, yes, sorry, it was a different outcome, of course. But I think the ghost of Christmas, well, I have to speak for me. The ghost of Christmas has often stayed with me.
Yes.
Now, let's go to the therapy room. So the last thing that a therapist needs to think, really the last thing, is that you do what I did to my daughter. In other words, I'll try and make Christmas really a good time in the therapy room. What
Yeah.
they should be doing,
Dress up and decorate and yeah.
yeah, what they should be doing is exploring the experience that a person has of the festive period in their past and in the present,
Yeah. With no
rather
assumptions
than
or judgments. I think we
yeah,
tend to assume that,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. So we'll put up a Christmas tree, like you've just said, and I know therapists do.
yeah,
I'll put up baubles, I'll do this and that, and we'll make it a wonderful time. And that is the last thing,
yeah,
the last things to assume that you can make it this Christmas somehow make up for all the Christmases which were so difficult.
yeah. Because it
What you
can be
need,
a triggering time for a lot of
I was
people.
just going to say that
Yeah,
for most clients who've had difficult histories, Christmas is a very triggering time.
yeah, yeah,
There's only one other day which is more prevalent. So, for example, if you go down to A&E at New Year, there's more committed suicide than any other day.
yeah.
Yeah,
Is there a thing
Christmas
called
is second,
Blue
I think.
Monday or something, which is the
Yeah,
Monday
Christmas is
after?
very high as well
Yeah,
because Christmas is such a triggering time for
yeah,
people who've had difficult histories, and so therefore, it isn't a therapist's job, even if they could, to attempt to make it something very different. I know the good intention, but the
yeah,
job needs to be by a therapist to explore the experiences of what they bring into the festive period, not the opposite.
yeah. And there is such a high expectation on everybody at Christmas time for perfection. Do you know what I mean? That you watch the Christmas movies and it's always nice and snowing and everything's perfect and everything. And for the majority of us, that wasn't how it was for us growing
No,
up.
no. And for those fortunate people who have healthy Christmases, great. However, I'm just going to repeat it. Go with where your client is rather than assume.
Yeah, yeah. And
No,
manage
somewhere you could, yeah,
expectation.
yeah. In some way, you could say 5 top tips for therapists for
Yes.
Christmas time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, number one, don't assume simply because you had a good, healthy Christmas that they have, and don't assume that you can make Christmases suddenly okay for the um, many decades of Christmases which were difficult.
Yeah.
You need to explore and help them explore their experiences of their disappointments and their hurts of yesterday. And from that position, they may make new decisions and have different coping mechanisms and may have the opportunity to have some sort of festive period in a different way
Yeah.
than what was foisted on them.
I think that's what I was thinking as you were talking then is, what would the ideal Christmas be? And it might not be the stereotypical Christmas that we think we should all have. Do you know what I mean? It might be a quiet Christmas. It might be spending Christmas on their own. It might be choosing to go for a big long walk and not having all the turkey and all the trimmings and everything. It's what would the ideal Christmas be like?
That's right. So when I went for a walk, I do every day, the Mersey, I lost count of how many people said to me, Happy Christmas.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, the intention is good. The intention is to recognize the other person from a festive place. So I
Yeah.
understand that from my adult. And sometimes it's very infuriating
Mm.
because it reminds me over and over again of the opposite.
Yeah. What's
So,
happy
but
about?
my adult takes control and I say thank you or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
transport that in the therapy room where you need to use Christmas to get back to the disappointments of hurts of yesterday. So maybe there's a chance then for people to make different decisions. Otherwise, you can be creating a reality that's actually not ever theirs.
Yes, yeah.
It's
And
yours.
again, you know, for me personally, there's a generational element to Christmases. My mum doesn't like Christmas, never has liked Christmas. So, you know, looking back as an adult now, I suppose Christmases were a really difficult time for her. And we felt that on Christmas Day,
Mm,
you know, but that was because of her experiences of Christmas.
mm.
And even now, she'll say, "Oh, I don't like Christmas." And I'm like, and I said to her, I'm not sure whether I've mentioned this on a podcast before. I said, "How many bad Christmases have you had, Mum?" She's like 82 now, I think. And she said, "Well, I can remember this one." And it was like one Christmas overshadows everything for her.
Yeah.
She doesn't like socializing. She doesn't like gatherings. She doesn't like a lot of people around her. Everything that you associate with Christmas brings her anxiety. So
Well,
it's a terrible time for her.
yeah, and if a therapist voices different reality onto the client, it's not healthy.
Yeah,
We need to get to underneath the process to find out what the reality is for the client, not the opposite.
yeah,
That doesn't mean you can't bring mince pies in, can't have, a cup of tea or even whatever. But we need to get to the client's realities
yeah,
rather than voice something on people.
yeah,
It's a very triggering time. You're completely right.
yeah. And
Absolutely.
to be perfectly honest, nowadays the Christmas period gets longer and longer and longer. You know, as soon as Halloween's over, that's it. All the Christmas decorating, and there's that many reminders all over for such a long period of time. It does impact on people.
Yeah. You should be happy. You should be happy. You
Yeah,
should be happy. You should be happy. Say that enough times. And if you have had a lone, difficult life, you're foisting a different reality onto somebody.
yeah.
That's not healthy.
I was having some treatment in hospital, and I was talking to the nurses or something, and you know, it was like what the November, I think it was like the 20th of November that we were having this conversation, and they were having their Christmas party then because everywhere was full.
Wow.
So they were having the works Christmas party on the 20th of November. That's like over a month before Christmas that the celebration needed
Wow.
to start. So get festive, it's Christmas.
On the 30th of August, 2024, I came back from Kos and I walked in John Lewis's, or was it John Lewis's? Anyway, and they were selling Christmas sweets.
Yeah.
It's,
But imagine what it would be like for somebody that doesn't enjoy the festive period to have it foisted on them wherever they went for a whole, it's bad enough the one day if you don't enjoy it, but to have it
yeah,
for a
it's
whole
terrible.
month or 6 weeks, that's ridiculous.
I was listening to in the car. Is it Radio Manchester? Oh no, Piccadilly. Piccadilly. It says Radio Piccadilly. And I thought, is it Sweeney has been going on for about 40 years. Anyway, this was this was about 4 weeks ago, I think. And he was talking to this person who, for how many days in a year? It's 365. 365 days were Christmas. In other words, he celebrated every day as it
Wow.
was Christmas. And he had a Christmas tree up every day of the year. He had Christmas dinner trimmings every day of the year. He gave himself presents, Christmas presents
You
every
need therapy.
day. I was chuckling to myself. And, oh gosh, I actually, I didn't, that's right. I didn't think he needs therapy, but he certainly did. But for him, maybe he lives in that reality. However, if we get back to, the other situation with our clients, we need to meet them where they're at rather than where we think they should be.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we can go back and enjoy our Christmas and everything else. But in the therapy room, we're paid to meet them where they're at, not where we think they need or should be.
Yeah. Because we're all unique and we've all had unique upbringings, and Christmas means different things to different people. Some people celebrate it, some people don't. Some people had a wonderful Christmas and try to recreate that every year. Some people had a horrendous Christmas and just want the day to be over and done with. Yeah.
Yeah, I got a email from an old friend of mine saying, "Oh, this year, me and my group, that's the therapy group, we're going to have a getaway from Christmas week." And they booked
Brilliant.
a residential place to get away from Christmas. So we need to meet people where they're at, not foist good or bad, in
Yeah.
our opinion, on them.
So what can we do, therapeutically wise with our clients if, we've had the conversation and they don't enjoy Christmas? What can we do to help them be more resilient around the
But of
festive?
course, let's not remember they may enjoy Christmas.
They may,
You're
yeah.
right. So it's not, that's what I'm saying. We meet them where they are. I remember I ran groups for 35 years every week. So I would have had 35 Christmases
Yeah.
with my group. Now, I didn't have on Christmas Day, but I mean the week before Christmas. And in a group of 8 people, because they're coming with various things, and depression, incapacitation, obsessive compulsive sexual abuse, or whatever it is, I would say more than half, way more than half, say 6. I'll just take an average. That's what's
Yeah.
about it. Had challenges and were triggered about Christmas.
I probably agree with that
Might be
percentage
higher than
of
that,
my
at
clients.
least.
Yeah.
So what we need to do, I think, is allow the client to explore where they're at in terms of loneliness or aloneness or memories or what's been triggered. Maybe even explore their disappointments that things were different, or
Yeah.
their disappointments to their mother and father that seem to foist Christmas on it, and they really understand everybody who's really unhappy, or whatever it is. And as I explore those feelings and their unmet needs and what could have been and their fantasies of what could be in words, and express all their feelings about that and everything else, you can then look at what were the coping decisions that you made at that time to get by that difficult period.
Yeah.
Oh, I just pretended everything was okay, really, and nothing really touched me at all. Like a Be Strong script,
Yeah. Yeah.
or whatever it was. And now, do you want to still keep with the same coping decision that was made all those years ago? And does it stop you enjoying or feeling or expressing the Christmases today with your family?
Yeah.
So you help them make a new decision if they want to, or change their coping with
Yeah.
decisions or whatever it is. But first of all, to take ownership of what was
Yes.
and how they could be stopping themselves getting perhaps a different type of festive period in some way.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, for clients or for all of us to understand that we have choices, and there's power in us being able to make choices on how we want to have Christmas. I think there's such an expectation on how it should be, but it doesn't need to be that way.
No, and you can change your script
Absolutely. Yeah.
to have it. Like, I know another couple who go away for Christmas all the time. Whatever, if the choices are made from the here and now, where they're at, rather than a defense system,
Yeah.
which keeps them actually being in the here and now in a real way. That's the bit we need to explore, the connections between the two. And if the coping mechanisms made to cope with yesterday don't actually help them today,
Yeah.
then we have a different story, and that's the therapy.
Yeah. And, I suppose it's quite apt talking about Christmas, Christmas past, Christmas present, and Christmas future or whatever. But
Mm,
that's how it feels a lot of the time is, how we had Christmas when we were growing up,
mm,
what we want today and the expectations of how it should be.
mm.
Do you know what I mean? But it's understanding and honoring those emotions.
Yeah, before we look to healing,
Yeah. Yeah.
because we're going to heal the agonies, the hurts of yesterday, we need to explore them first, to take
Yeah.
ownership of them, to look at how we can perhaps get a different story today if we want to.
That's absolutely right. If we want to do that and understand that there is a choice that we can
Mm.
make Christmases different for ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah, we can. I mean, that's the bit, is that we can empower ourselves with different choices or not.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't do it so much now that my kids are all grown up and everything and kind of live away from home. But I put an awful lot of pressure on me to make everybody's Christmas happy. It was my job to make everybody enjoy Christmas. And the reality is, it's an impossible task that I set myself up to do
Mm,
every bloody year. Yeah.
mm, mm. And I just said to Jessica, I think I tried to make it a good Christmas for you. And I'm glad to hear that they were good Christmases for you, because I often thought maybe I foisted a different reality onto you. So, you know, but for a lot of our clients, we need to meet them where they are
Yeah.
rather than what we think they need.
Yeah. Yeah.
That doesn't mean we can't have a Christmas. I think they decide the therapist can leave the therapy room, leave all the work they've done, and then they can have the Christmas they want. Or, but we're paid very much to think about how the past affects the present and what's happening in the moment for our clients.
Yeah. And
But
there's
the other bit
something,
about is the other bit is if you don't, by the way, and then you suddenly hear they're down in the A&E on Christmas Eve because you haven't realised what's going on for them because you've been so interested in making a happy time for them.
yeah.
I know that's happened, not with me, but I know that's happened because I've
Yeah.
supervised people where that has happened. Oh, I never realised. I tried to make the therapy group very nice on our last 2 hours before the 25th. Oh, and tell me how you did that. Oh, we had mince pies, we had Christmas, we cheered Christmas, we gave hugs to each other. And I said, and did you ever ask them how they really were?
Mm.
And there's the difference,
Yeah.
how they really are. Or
So,
did you ever inquire what was going on in their history at Christmas time? No, we were just enjoying ourselves. You see, there's the difference.
yeah. I think for me, there was a lot around permission with the work that I was doing. Yeah,
Yeah,
meeting them
yeah,
where they are, but
yeah.
giving them permission to explore even,
The
you know,
possibility of enjoying themselves.
absolutely, and what that would look like for them and
Great
how
word.
would it be enjoyable?
How
And
would it be? How would it be enjoyable?
yeah,
Definitely. How
yeah,
might it be enjoyable in a different way than your previous experiences?
yeah. Taking away all the expectations and everything else, plan ahead and we can do all of that sort of stuff to manage expectations and everything. But but prioritize self-care. I think that's something, if you need to take time out on Christmas Day, then it's okay to take time out on Christmas Day.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Give permission.
yeah. But it's a whole minefield to explore. It's not just the one day, is it? It's the run up to it. It's the aftermath. It's
Wow.
everything. It's
Yeah, now this podcast is not called The Aftermath of Christmas, but if it was, coming back for your group after Christmas and New Year is another story.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I just had a feeling come over me then when you said that.
Mm.
Yeah. Of, I don't know what, like a loss or grief or a new beginning or
A
something.
new beginning and loss, grief, all those things. I
Yeah.
don't know what our next podcast is, but you know, when we come back, often, you know, we may look at new beginnings, but I think we explored also how has the festive time been for you, really?
I just had a vision then of being a kid at school and that
Mm.
you go back, when you leave the school with the run up to Christmas, you've done your plays and you've done all your snowman pictures and they're all decorated and everything. And then over that period, everything's stripped out and you go back and the classroom is completely bare. Taking the decorations down was a big deal for me because the house looked bare.
Yeah,
It-
change is different. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So there's
Well, we know
lots of
what our
things.
next podcast is going to be about now, then, don't we?
Well, I'm going to write it down. What's our next podcast going to be about, Bob?
I don't know, but they're all those, what, you know, I don't know, like beginnings and old times and beginnings or aftermath for Christmas or whatever. But it's interesting, isn't it?
It is. But there are lots of things that we can talk about, and again, it's the run up to Christmas, maybe to have a conversation with them about the festivities and how they feel.
Oh, it would be odd if you didn't.
Yeah,
It would be really odd if the therapist denied or what we're talking about.
yeah.
It would be extremely incongruent.
Because again, there's that. I know I touched on it with my mum, that you know generational thing. Christmas traditions that family have that we kind of adopt that they're not even ours. You
Yeah,
know,
all that stuff.
starting
And then
with
you've got the client that comes in and we start saying a fairly new client and Christmas comes up and it's the last group and talking about the experience of Christmas. And she said, you know, my father and mother attempted so much to make Christmas okay. And I remember so vividly how unhappy they actually were, but they tried so hard. And now in the end, they divorced over Christmas.
wow.
Now that's a story and a half. Well, how they will remember Christmas. What about the Christmases where people die over Christmas?
Yeah.
A significant other person has had a crisis, an accident, and I remember there's a story I was listening to on the radio again of it's some sort of Christmas song which is all happy and cheery. And somebody came on the radio and said it was the most difficult time for them because it was their father's favourite song, and he died on Christmas Day.
Blooming heck.
So we need to
How do you get
always,
over something like that? How can you
well,
celebrate?
we need to always ask. We need to ask our clients what it all means for them,
Yeah,
not assuming.
yeah. It's a it's a traumatic time for an awful lot of people. The run up to
Therapists
it,
might
the
forget that.
actual.
Therapists might forget that in their attempt to make everything okay.
Yeah,
So I wish all therapists, you know, a good Christmas, but also to look at what's really happening underneath the veneer with their clients.
yeah.
I do. Yeah.
And themselves, it's
Oh,
not.
what they bring into Christmas. Ah, well, that's another whole story, isn't it? The counter transference.
Yeah,
You,
yeah.
Mike. You might have a therapist that has such a dreadful time at Christmases, and in life they've always found it difficult and everything else, and challenges. They might be living by themselves, and goodness knows what. So they may come into the therapy room, and their counter-transference response might be, well, I'm going to make everything all right for everybody else at Christmas time.
Yeah, I think that's what I was alluding to at the beginning. Usually we either replay the same stuff or we do the complete opposite.
And that's the problem.
Yes.
The polarization.
Yeah. And we don't need to conform. We don't need to do, what it says on the television and all the adverts with everybody sat round a massive table and it's all happy and jolly and they've all got Christmas hats on and everything.
No, we need to look at what it's all really about.
Yes. Having said that, I'd like to
have a good Christmas.
A Merry Christmas. However you
another
choose
level
to celebrate
altogether.
it.
Yeah. Well, that's another level altogether. Of course we say that to people. But so that's fine. And I'm saying that to you, to all the listeners and everything else, and for therapists who are dealing with people who have perhaps a different experience or even similar. I think they need to meet them at that place. In fact, they're paid to meet them at that place.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I want to point out that it's really important that therapists do take care of themselves when they're working with clients that have struggled around this period. That we do protect ourselves, that we do take care of ourselves and prioritize ourselves, and to take time out to process the whole.
Yeah. And what about Christmas presents?
Yeah.
We haven't even got onto that subject about whether when the client comes in with a Christmas present, you would accept them as a therapist. That's another whole podcast, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Do you? Simple.
Well, and the BACP, social workers, different regulating bodies would say that you're not allowed to take presents from clients for lots of reasons. It's a whole podcast, isn't it?
Yeah.
About gifts and presents, and what therapists think about that, and what they've been trained, and whether to take them, accept them, or what to do with them. Because at Christmas time,
my clients are quite clever.
There's another podcast. We'll be here for another half an hour talking about
that. Yeah. So until next time, where we will be talking about beginnings and the aftermath of Christmas. We will do something around that.
Yeah, definitely. Beginnings, definitely. That's where we'll go.
And it's aired on Boxing Day, so it's a really good time to talk about maybe, the come down from Christmas.
Do you know what Boxing Day means in reality, why it's called Boxing Day?
I don't know whether it's something to do with the boxes or whether it's because there was always a boxing match on there.
No,
I mean, two minds.
It's two boxes.
The boxes.
I think so. I don't know myself, but somebody said to me, and I've forgotten it. I just said it to you because I said it to you, but as it's going to be Boxing Day, I'm going to find out the meaning of Boxing Day for that podcast.
That's a really good thing to do. I'm writing it down.
For the podcast. How can we do a podcast on Boxing Day if I don't know what Boxing Day really means traditionally?
Well, that's a challenge for you, and I've written it down so you can't get away with not doing it. Yeah. So until next time, where it will be Boxing Day when we release our podcast, have a wonderful Christmas, however you celebrate it.
Jackie, sorry before you go off. One of my favourite podcasts is The Rest is Politics by Alistair Stewart and the other guy's name. Should remember it. Alice, I can't remember his other name. Anyway, I wanted for 2025, I want to plea that for one of our podcasts to be titled Politics and Therapy, Where Do They Meet?
Ooh, that'll be a heavy one.
At the present moment, so much is happening in the world as we come to the end of 2024 that it'd be great to have a podcast to take account of all this.
Yeah.
And yes, listeners, have a happy Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
At least have the Christmas you want to have.
And be okay with having the Christmas that you want to have. You have permission to celebrate it however you choose to do it.
Absolutely. Options and choices, that's right.
That's the one. And to you, Bob, have a wonderful day.
Yes, and I'm certainly now going to find out what boxing.
That's your homework for next week.
Yeah.
Do it now before you forget.
And you, of course.
Until
And
next
you, of
time,
course.
Bob.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to The Therapy Show, Behind Closed Doors podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. We'll be back next week with another episode.